right, you're going to be working on a facing math assignment that has to do with foiling and factoring. Now this isn't just a random assignment. We are actually going to be starting foiling and factoring again very soon, so you need to remember how to do it. Now I'm going to do a few examples with you just in case you don't remember. Now I'm going to show you both methods. On this one, I'm going to show you the FOIL method if that's the one that you prefer. On problem number 2, I'm going to show you the box method. So for problem number 1, if you are doing FOIL, that's where you take the first x and multiply it to everything in the second set of parentheses. So it's really more like double distribution. So if I multiply 1x times 1x, that gives me 1x squared. Because I'm multiplying two of them together, that's why I've got x squared. Now 1x times negative 1 over there gives me negative 1x. Then I need to distribute the negative 1 in the first set of parentheses the same way. So negative 1 times x is negative 1x, and negative 1 times negative 1, make sure you're multiplying right here and not adding, gives me positive 1. So you do the multiplying on that whole distribution step, then you need to combine like terms, which means you are adding things. So x squared is the only one that has that exponent, but those two in the middle I can combine. A negative 1 plus another negative 1 gives me negative 2. So now I have negative 2 x's and then plus 1. So the one that this matches up with is answer choice B. And this is the picture that you are going to draw on the face. Okay. Now if you prefer the box method, I'm going to show you that one on problem number 2. We've got a 2 by 2 problem, so I need a 2 by 2 box, and it doesn't matter which one you put across the top or the side. I'm going to put 2x plus 3 on the top and x plus 4 on the bottom. And this is just to kind of help me multiply things together. Now, inside, what I'm actually multiplying right here is a 1x. So in the first box, 1 times 2 gives me 2, but x times x is where I get the x squared. Then in the next box, I'm doing positive 3 times 1x. 3 times 1 is still 3. That had an x, so we still have an x. In this box, we're doing 4 times 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. That one had an x, so I bring it down. And in the last box, make sure you're multiplying, not adding. We're doing positive 4 times positive 3, which is positive 12. Now after that, all we need to do is combine like terms like we did on the other problem. 2x squared just goes in the front because it's alone. But 3x and 8x both have the same letter, so you can add their numbers in front to get positive 11x. And then I've got my constant plus 12. That's my answer, which matches up with answer choice B. And notice they were trying to trick you. They were hoping somebody would add the 4 and the 3 instead of multiply it. Okay, so that's FOIL and box. Now let's look at the next page, or actually 2 pages over. Problem number 13, this is where the factoring is going to start. And make sure you show work or you are not getting any credit. Okay, on this page, so 13 through 21, you are using the same factoring method. This is the one where you have 3 terms without a number in front. You can jump straight to your parentheses and list the factors of your constant, so the number at the end. So 20 could be 1 times 20 or 2 times 10. Or 4 times 5. But I'm going to pick 4 and 5 because those two add to give me positive 9. So I've got x plus 4 times x plus 5, which means my answer is B. Now what's inside the parentheses, as long as that's the same thing, it's okay for them to be switched around like that. Okay. Number 14, same idea. This is x squared, so I can go ahead and put my 2 parentheses with my x's right here. And I've got negative 13 as my constant, which could be negative 1 times 13 or 1 times negative 13. But I've got to pick the pair that adds to give me the positive 12. So I need negative 1 and positive 13. Which means it is answering or matching up with answer choice A. And the last one I'm doing on this page is number 15. We're doing the same method. Both of my parentheses can start with their x's. And I'm listing the factors of a positive 9. So 1 times 9 or 3 times 3, but neither one of those add to give us negative 10. Well, don't forget that when you've got a positive constant, you could also have 2 negative numbers. Negative times negative still gives me positive 9, but it adds to give me negative 10. So minus 1 and minus 9, my answer would be A. Now look at the next page. Now on this page, half of your questions are difference of squares. That's 22, 24, and 26. The other half is the factor by grouping, which is that longer method. But you're only going to be responsible for doing 2 of them. Okay. So let me remind you how to do the difference of squares. The reason that I know this is the difference of squares, we've got a subtraction problem between 2 terms, and they are both perfect squares. The way I know they're perfect squares, well, the square root of 25 is 5, square root of x squared is x, and then I take the square root of a positive 121, so don't take that negative sign with it. That gives me positive 11. Well, when you put these in your parentheses, since 25x squared was first, 5x needs to be first. So 5x plus 11 and 5x minus 11. And that means this one is answer choice B. Now 23. This one is the more difficult method. When you have 3 terms with the number in front, that's when you multiply the first and the last numbers together and take the factors of that constant. So I'm going to list the factors of negative 14. So negative 1 times 14, negative 2 times 7, 1 times negative 14, or 2 times negative 7. But the ones that are going to add to give me that positive 13 is negative 1 and 14. Now from here, what we're going to do is rewrite the problem without the middle term. We are replacing it with our numbers. So I just took these 2 numbers, put some x's on them, and replaced the 13x. Because negative 1x plus 14x is 13x's, so we haven't really changed the problem. Okay. Now we've got to take out the greatest common factor. So if you still kind of struggle with that, you can list the factors of both of your numbers. 7 can only be 1 times 7, and 1 could only be 1 times 1. So the only factor they have in common is 1. Both of those have x's, so I can take out the one with the smaller exponent. So I'm dividing out 1x from those first 2 terms. Now 7 divided by 1 is 7. X squared divided by x is x. Negative 1 divided by 1 is negative 1, and the x's go away. Then for the next 2, okay, I've got 14 and negative 2. So 14 could be 1 times 14 or 2 times 7. For 2, we could have 1 times 2. Now they have 2 factors in common, 1 and 2, but the biggest one they have in common is 2, so that's the one that we are taking. And because we've got a plus sign right here, we are taking out positive 2. So I'm dividing that from each one of those terms. 14 divided by 2 gives me 7 x's. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Now I do have the same thing in both sets of my parentheses. That's half of my answer, 7x minus 1. The other half is my leftovers, the 1x plus 2. And this matches up with answer choice A. Now make sure that you show all of your work in order to get full credit.